Greetings everyone and welcome to another WIS Technology tutorial. This is a follow-up video to the curriculum mapping site I've been working on using Google Sites and awesome tables. I concluded my last video by talking about how my next goal was to link curricular units to specific dispositional outcomes. And I've found a way how to do that, so I'd just like to share a little bit of what I've come up with in the last day or two. So just to reiterate the workflow, so a teacher would come to this site and request a unit template. So this is nothing more than a Google form. This is then, by way of Autocrat, converted into a Google Doc, sent to them via email, and then automatically listed in the table on the homepage of this Google site. So that's how the units are created. And again, once they're created, they would simply go back to those units and edit them. There's even a link in this table to the various units as well, and they can be edited directly in the Google site as well. So that's a little bit about sort of the adding the data to the mapping site. Now, in terms of the outcomes, I've created a way to basically, based on the subject column here in this table, I have a link now to the appropriate dispositional outcomes that were developed by each department. So if I click here, I'm going to get a link to the math outcomes, for example. These are dispositional units or dispositional outcomes per unit. And this could be filled out and submitted. Now, a key feature of the outcomes is how I link it back to the actual unit. So say, for example, I'm looking at this English unit. Now, the way I link it back to that unit is I would choose it from the menu up here. The very first question is using Form Ranger, which allows you to populate a form question based on a column in a spreadsheet. And the downside of this is that it can only be auto-refreshed either on a form submit or on a 1-hour interval. So the problem this poses is that from the time you request a template, you're going to have to wait about an hour before you can actually work on the outcomes for that unit. There's really no way of getting around that unless you manually auto-refresh the Form Ranger add-on. So, and this is just a limitation with Google. There's nothing we can do really to fix that. So, and then once you select the unit, these outcomes will be associated with that unit. Now, what's even more interesting is once I've done that, once I've submitted the outcomes here, they're fed into, for example, a spreadsheet that looks like this. All right, so this is the master spreadsheet for any of the English outcomes. And what I've been able to do is apply a script to this spreadsheet, which basically collects, or it creates the edit response URL for the form. Now, what that allows you to do is, if the outcomes change for a particular unit, you have the ability to go in and edit those responses, whether you were the original teacher that created that or if you're someone else. So it's basically anyone who has access to that particular document is able to edit outcomes for that particular unit. So what that script does is it produces this column J right here. So this is a link to a particular unit. So notice here it says this is the House of Mango Street. These are the existing outcomes that are being met in this particular unit. And again, this is all just fictional data, and I could change these and resubmit, and it's not going to create a new line or a new row of data in my spreadsheet. It's just going to alter the original response. So going back to the map is, here we go. I'm just going to bring up the outcomes page. And I'll click on English. I'm going to create, again, this is still very early and I'm still trying to figure out the best usability features for someone using this. But I'm going to create different, based on subjects, I'm going to create the outcomes. And here I have another awesome table embedded into the Google site where I can edit or view existing outcomes of particular units, and I can even search for the units, because once this is a database that's full of units, it's going to be much easier to just do a keyword search for the particular unit that you want to edit or view outcomes for. And I even embedded a form for the English units that only pulls units that are of the English subject. So, for example, we notice here I don't have outcomes yet listed for Romeo and Juliet. So what I could do is I could go into Romeo and Juliet, and I could go in and figure out what my outcomes are, or the ones that are relevant to this particular unit. I can hit submit. Now what should happen is when I refresh the screen, that unit and a link to edit those outcomes should appear in this table. So I'm just going to refresh and see if it does what it's supposed to do. Yeah. Okay. So it did put in the URL, but for some reason the hyperlink didn't work. So I still have to work out some of the formatting issues I'm having, but if I were to go to this URL, which let me just try to highlight this, copy, paste it here. Yeah, so this is going to take me to the Romeo and Juliet unit, and I could go ahead and edit the outcomes. So again, this is just an update on my progress with this project. My next step will be to create reports on these outcomes, which a lot of that will be done kind of in the back end. I'm just trying to focus on the front end and what the teachers and administrators will be looking at. But I will now begin working on generating reports that will, show what percentage of units are emphasizing communication and collaboration, or creativity and innovation, and what aspects of those are perhaps being not as emphasized as we'd like. So anyway, this is where it currently stands, and I'll continue plugging away at building this curriculum mapping site. And before I go, I'd just like to demonstrate one other feature I'm working on with this curriculum mapping site, and that is the idea of being able to search the full text of a Google Drive folder for specific words. And this could be very useful if you're interested in looking for ways, for example, how if you're interested in using Twitter, you'd like to look at a unit where maybe Twitter was highlighted and it's been recorded in the curriculum unit. And by keyword searching Twitter, it could bring back a bunch of results across all disciplines. And then those teachers could kind of collaborate and interact and see, in what ways they could improve their use of Twitter in the class, so on and so forth. So, and I just want to say that I've also I found a lot of interesting scripts just Googling, and I'm going to go back and figure out where exactly I found those scripts, because they've been very useful, and I just want to make sure it's clear that none of these scripts are my own. They've been thanks to all of you out there who are developing these really cool things. I've simply modified a few of them just to kind of meet my needs. But the one I want to demonstrate here is a script that allows me to search a Google Drive folder for keywords. And for this mapping site, again, every unit is submitted into this particular folder, curriculum submission. So what this script is going to do is simply search this folder for a specific word. So when I launch this script, it's going to ask me, okay, search the curriculum. So if I search, for example, math, okay, what it will do is bring back the name of the unit and the URL to that link. Now, obviously, this is simply searching, it's picking it up because it's visible in the title. But say there's a word in this math unit that is not visible in the title. The script will still find it, which is really interesting. So I can go search in all files, and I can then type in, for example, a vector. And I run this, and it'll repopulate the spreadsheet with only units containing the word vector. So notice it's not listed in the title of the unit, but it is available in the actual unit. So it's searching the text as well. I still haven't yet figured out how to turn this into a gadget, which I'm going to be working with some people that have a little bit more expertise in this than I do. But ultimately, I would like this feature to be available on this Google site as well, to create opportunities for collaboration and just the overall just sharing of ideas through the curriculum as well. So that's about it.